So the benefits are that the earthquake locations are ground truthed, and we include information on fault geometry and fault slip. And if I say nothing more in the next 5 minutes, or if my slides don't work, then at least you can take that home with you.
We have the blue screen of death.
Yay! Okay, and I did this work with some of my colleagues from England, who sadly cannot be here today. So I'm going to talk about the future of InSAR briefly, when my slide ticks over. And the future is Sentinel. Sentinel will be launched hopefully in a year's time. There will be 2 satellites ultimately. The second one may be launched in 2015. These will be fantastic instruments with a 250-kilometer swath with tight orbital control so that you could form coherent pairs between any pair of images. They'll be in the same orbit. They'll be orbit 6 days apart. This means that we'll be able to form interferograms post-earthquake within days, and presumably in time to be actually societally useful. And so that's great, and I can't wait. The way that we do this, modeling earthquakes with InSAR, is to take our unwrapped interferogram data, to downsample it, which we can do because they're highly spatially correlated. We don't lose any information doing that, but we gain a lot of computational efficiency. Then we use a nonlinear optimization algorithm to find the best fitting fault geometry that presumably in this case would fit somewhere in that gap there. And then we can bust that thing up into small patches and solve for the slip on each one of them. And we'll end up with some fancy model of the Manu earthquake, which I published a few years ago. This has been applied now to 70 earthquakes. There's a few missing off this actually. Now we have 9s at Tohoku, and we have a fair few small ones as well that have been reported. This is great fun. And we've started actually compiling these into a catalog. And in honor of the global CMT catalog, we have decided to call this the ICMT catalog for InSAR Centroid Moment Tensor. The idea is that for a given earthquake model made with InSAR, this is the BAM earthquake, you can take the 2 faults which you think ruptured in this earthquake and compute an average location, moment weighted, an average moment weighted centroid moment tensor, which is like this here. So it's a combination of strike slip and a bit of oblique motion. So we've been doing this now for compiling these for the last 3 years. Jenny may have written to you and asked you for details on your models. We have published them in a paper last year. We've been doing this, and we continue to do this, and we're having fun doing it. A big cloud came on the horizon when I tried to describe this to a senior colleague who patently just told me, oh, catalogs aren't sexy. Well, I don't know what you're bothering that for. But I think that was just the poverty of his imagination. This one could actually have wide scientific applications because it does not rely on seismic data, which is a kind of a circular thing that seismologists like to think about. So here's the Izmit earthquake, and here's the model of the Izmit earthquake, and here is the global CMT solution for the Izmit earthquake, centroid. It's offset by about 40 kilometers from where the fault actually was. We thought that was bad, but then we looked at ones from Matt Pritchard's earthquakes in the Andes, and those are mislocated by 50 kilometers. And the average mislocation is something like 20 kilometers, which is enough to be on the wrong fault if you really trusted them. And I don't trust them. So this gives us an opportunity maybe to interrogate different Earth models and see if there is a high-resolution tomographic Earth model out there that will fit the earthquake locations better than the GCMT. The GCMT uses a quite coarse Earth model, it turns out, but the short answer is that it doesn't help you any. You may improve the fit to some, like the Aikile earthquake, which is one that's very dear to my heart, but then you can mislocate these ones in Cascadia horribly more. So right now, I think the use of this data might well be that we can place independent constraints on locations and improve tomographic models. Another thing that we can do is to delve into a question which has plagued seismologists for a while, which is what controls earthquake size. This is a problem that's important for earthquake hazard analysis because, of course, what people do is measure unruptured faults and try and figure out how big the earthquake will be. And people wonder whether moments scale to the length of the fault or the square of the length of the fault. And, of course, that makes a big difference to the expected seismic moment in an earthquake. It turns out that we can do this. We can get this by plotting information from our catalog, the seismic moment against the length of the fault. The slope of this line essentially gives you the exponent of length, and it's 1.8, which is closer to 2 than to 1. The thrust earthquakes, if you treat them alone, actually have a slope of 2, which is kind of interesting. One cloud on the horizon is that these models are highly non-unique. I think Sarah already said that, but this is another case of in point. These are all from hexamine. So there's clearly going to be a problem combining lots of people's different solutions if they're using different techniques. So my blueprint for solving that is to model them all myself using the same methodology each time, and go through every earthquake that's ever happened that's been on land at appropriate depth and a moment and go for all the new ones as well. So what can UNAVCO do for us? Well, if they could secure us the entire data archive of past earthquakes, that'd be fantastic. Maybe there could be some help combining all the tools that we've already produced into nice automated tools so that any other person could do this if they wanted. And disseminating our results would be also very helpful if they could help us with that. Thank you.